Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a 2K Drones live stream. Now, I know it's been a while, but we are back. And as always, I am joined by my brother in arms, my wingman, and Chuck Kovac.
Since when am I your wingman? You can be my wingman.
You're my wingman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a minute, I think.
No, just a couple of months.
Yeah. Wait till you get a load of Henry.
Yes. Henry's got some facial fuzz going on.
He's all grown up.
Henry unfortunately can't join us, but he did make a new segment, so we will have that soon. So what are we talking about today? Well, there's been a few things since we were off air. DJI kind of fixed the Mavic 3. We have a new DJI drone. We have rumored DJI drones. So we're going to be talking about all of that, and then our creative corner, and hopefully some people from the travel vlog forum are watching. We're going to be talking about vlogging gear, basically, and what we use to make our travel vlogs. But we will kick off with the DJI Mini 3 Pro, because DJI has started to use the Pro thing again, because of course DJI are so consistent with their product names.
Oh yes, always so consistent. And now you can't call, like, if they come out with a Mavic 3 Pro, then there'll be an M3P and an M3P, which can be really tough on us guys that like to use acronyms because we don't want to type all these long names out.
Yeah, well, technically it is the Mavic 3. There is no Pro in it.
I'm saying
I know what you mean. If everybody calls it the 3 Pro,
the successor to the Mavic 3. I know it's a little early to talk about it, but there are rumors. But for now, Mini 3 Pro. By the way, I have not one but two on ordered, two different places. We're gonna see who gets it first.
So, I mean, this is an interesting release because DJI have released this with two types of controllers. So you've got the standard controller, and then you've got this controller with a screen. Now, here's the thing with the controller with the screen. It's nowhere near as bright as either the Smart Controller or the new RC Pro. It seems to be underpowered in its transmission, in the fact that it's not as powerful transmission as the standard remote, which is kind of like what the Smart Controller was like.
Well, I don't think it's an issue here in the States, but when you get into the EU, it could become challenging. I think it's a smart decision. They're keeping it low powered. They still keep the they're not cannibalizing the RC Pro. The RC Pro is the king of the hill controller, and there's a good chance it's going to work with the Mini 3 Pro very soon. I would be surprised if it doesn't.
The only thing that I wish they'd done was to make the screen 1,000 nits. If they'd put 1,000 nit screen on that, it's perfect.
But they reduce costs by removing fans. So by removing fans, they reduce the battery consumption. So they've probably done these things for a reason, Keith.
I know, but it limits its usage.
Now, it's still brighter than an iPhone in the hot sun, isn't it?
No. About the same. I mean, I think there's 600 and something nits an iPhone. Okay, it lasts longer than an iPhone, but you can't use an iPhone in the sun. You have to get shade. I used to have, when I was flying me Mavic 2, I had that hood that DJI made, the Velcro foldable one that you sit, that would basically fit onto the aerials and then cover the phone, because it was the only way I could fly here because it's so damn bright. The Smart Controller works perfectly because it's that super bright screen.
Yeah, I happen to have one of those right here.
So it's a shame that they didn't do that. But I mean, what they've done is produced a very... Yeah, there you go.
I didn't show very long. Sorry, Gareth.
Hang on 2 secs. But what they've done is that, I mean, the new Mini 3 is quite a significant improvement on the on the on the Mini 2. I mean, you've got sensors, which means it has a form of active track. Those sensors are backwards and forwards, apparently.
As
But
opposed to its predecessor, the Mini 2, which
yeah,
has
that one
like
there.
no
Zero.
that front. Those aren't sensors, as everybody knows. It's just they're fills. There's nothing on the back. The only ones it has are on the bottom. Oh, hold on. We will reveal down here.
Yeah. So I only had but those were for
Landing.
landing
Yeah.
effectively.
Precision landing, which something we won't get into that anymore. We'll let that go.
This is the interesting thing. So effectively, the Mini 3 Pro is a Mavic Air 2 with a slightly better sensor. Now there's various comparisons on DJI's own website, and they compare this against the Mini 2. But if we sort of scroll down a little bit here, so I mean, you've got the weight; they both weigh the same. Although I think they've made more compromises on the Mini 3 than they did on the Mini 2, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if we scroll down a little bit more, we should get down to the sensor size, and here we go. So here's the thing, right? So the Mini 3 actually has a slightly larger sensor than the Mavic Air 2. Did you know that?
Slightly
Larger sensor.
Slightly. If you have a Mavic, I'm sorry, if you have an Air 2, I could see where you might want the Mini 3 Pro.
Yeah,
because of the 10-bit and things like that.
It can do 10-bit
4K 60,
which 10-bit cine like, so not 10-bit D-Log.
Yeah,
there
not
is a
D-Log.
big difference.
There's yes.
And there is obviously, but the one thing is, it's got an f-stop of 1.7. So not only does it have a lower aperture,
low.
It also has a slightly bigger sensor. So in theory, the low light performance of this is kind of better than the Air 2. Now, it is not as good as the Air 2S.
Right, and that's the kicker. That's the kicker, yeah. Keith. I'm kind of confused by the guys that. No, I get it. I mean, we're all addicted to new product. But if you have an Air 2S, you really don't, and you want the bigger batteries for the Mini 3 Pro, you don't need the Mini 3 Pro because you already have a better drone.
Well,
overall.
Okay. So I knew we were going to discuss this, so I thought
you thought it through.
I've thought this through. Now, I was
because you're an Air 2S guy. That's why I know you know about.
No, because I'm actually going to say I think I do need. I think there is an area where you could have both, because here's the thing, right? The Mini 3 sub 250 drone, so technically you can fly it in most places, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Mini 3 is quieter. It is quieter. It is more subtle. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Air 2S is pretty damn quiet for a drone, but the Mini 3 is more subtle. So it's like if I was going up to one of the waterfalls, because Lem and I are planning a trip later on in the year, and we want to go and visit a waterfall. Now, you don't want to take a big drone in there because it's not very subtle. Whereas if you just shove the Mini 3 up, no one's going to really bat an eyelid. It's a tiny little drone. Most people are going to think it's just a toy.
The size, okay. So the size is a distinct benefit. I've experienced that with the Mini 2, because the Mini 2 I've taken up around people, and they don't care. It's not scary. Thing's tiny, freaking tiny, and people don't care. And it's pretty quiet. So the Mini, I can see that, Keith, where it's less intimidating to people around you when you're trying to get shots.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The Air 2S is
it's a kick-ass drone.
It has D-Log, but you have to know what you're doing with D-Log. And if you don't, what else does it have? Okay, it has a 1-inch sensor. But again, the Mavic Air 2 was pretty impressive. I mean, the footage off that thing was pretty impressive, right? This has 10-bit. So in theory, this is way better. Now, grading D-Cine-like, hell of a lot easier, okay? And the fact that 10-bit gives you that extra color. If you were traveling and you just wanted a drone to get shots with, there isn't a better drone on the market at the moment.
No, that's true. Especially if, like, for me, last year when Lori and I ventured over to the UK, I bought the Mini 2, about now, because I knew that when I got over there, I could fly the Mini 2 with great ease. I didn't have the problems I was going to have flying the Mavic 2 Pro around. And that turned out to be totally true. And the footage that I captured with just the little Mini 2 in normal profile was pretty acceptable. And so to have the Mini 3 Pro, I'd have the Mini 3 Pro and go back. Well, I guess I just have to go back. That's all. But anyway, it's a great travel drone, probably the best travel drone, especially if you don't have a drone already. The price of admission is kind of up there, but that's been the trend for all these drones, for Autel and DJI is.
Yeah, but it's not okay. It's around about the 600 or 700 quid mark.
Well, it's true. You can get you can get the drone without the RC at all. If you have another, but just a new, let's say you're a travel vlogger, you don't have a drone, you want a drone, your budget's tight. Mini 2 would work. The Mini 2 would work, but the Mini 3 Pro will get you the quality. If you have the bank, if you can afford the Mini 3 Pro, that's a great drone to learn on. It has sensors to kind of help keep you out of trouble. All those sensors, as we know, you can't count on your sensors. You have to count on these. So like that would be my choice if I was a travel vlogger and I could only have one drone. It would be the Mini 3 Pro. Just one drone. If only one fits in my suitcase, that's what would go with me.
Now it's not without its issues. I mean, as I alluded to, with the Mini 3, they don't supply you a decent, by the looks of it, they don't supply that quite handy propeller guard thing.
No, the thing I just took off? Apparently not.
So it's loosey-goosey again.
Yeah, and that's kind of surprising that they got rid of the power brick too. The Mini 2 came with a power brick. Not a great one, but it came with one.
And it suffers from the same problem that the Action 2 does, in the fact that most of the overheats that I've had with the Action 2, bar one, is when I'm charging it and trying to download. Because the minute you plug it into the battery body, it starts charging. And there's no way to stop it doing that. So when you plug an SD card into it, and you want to download to the SD card, it's doing two things at once, and bump, it overheats. And the Mini 3 seems to suffer from the same thing, because when you plug the Mini 3 in to transfer all your shit off it, bump. If you're doing a firmware upgrade with it through the PC, bump. It seems to overheat because it's charging as well as doing this. And because they've put all those sensors in, it doesn't have a fan. So it is passively cooled. And therefore, it has been having some overheat issues. I've heard of some unverified sort of transmission issues with it, but the quality of coming out of that camera is pretty impressive for a drone of its size. And the fact that it's so quiet, and I've seen one here, and it is the quietest little drone. Well, it's the quietest drone I've heard. It's amazing.
I'm looking forward to getting at least one of the ones that I've ordered in maybe the next week or so. But drone, we haven't said hello to anybody in the chat, so shame on us.
Yes, we
probably should do that, right? Drone Viral was the first in like 3 hours ago. He popped in, and Drone Phoenix has stopped in.
SK Lifties D. Am I saying that right? SK
Lifty D's.
Nice name.
At least it's not double D's.
But,
oh yeah,
I mean, yeah, and then of course there's the vertical image. I think the vertical image thing is good for TikToks and Instagram if you're into that. I am more impressed with its anafi ability to
like
almost
that
right up.
Yes, I like. To me, the TikTok thing it's not my thing, but I can see the allure to that, especially. You're grabbing that market with this drone. That's cool. But yeah, the Anafi-esque gimbal to be able to pivot up is because you know how I love my bridge porn. So like, well, it's just for me, it's great. I can get that gimbal pivot up and go under a bridge deck and stuff. And
when I saw that, I mean, the amount of times I end up circling things where I can technically be lower than
And you can give a sense of height too. So you
Yeah.
can orbit and you can pivot your gimbal up as you orbit, and you can get that sense of height. It'd be a really cool cinematic shot if done unscrappily.
I mean, you look
If
at
done
the
unscrappily.
Yep.
Is that a word? It is now. Unscrappily.
Yeah. Slowly.
Slow.
But yeah, turtle on the hair.
Yeah.
But it definitely provides some interesting shots that none of the other drones, including the Mavic 3, give you the ability to do. So I think it's earned its pro name. The quality is definitely better than the Mini 2. It has the same ability to take those 48 megapixel pictures, which it's not really 48 megapixel. It's what they call the quad bearing thing. But the picture, here's the thing, right? The picture quality between the Mavic Air 2 and the Air 2S, because the Air 2S does real 20 meg pictures, whereas the Air 2S did this sort of quad bearing thing where it was taken for, it isn't that huge. And actually, some of the pictures I've seen people have been posting on the Mini 3, they are pretty impressive. Here's the thing, people. Please I've seen this quite a few times where people are going, oh, it's nearly as good as the Mavic 3. No.
No. If there's a way for me to fly the Mavic 3 now, I do, because that thing is, now they've gotten the GPS sorted out. Keith, that thing's amazing, man.
If you're flying the Mavic 3 on the normal profile, right?
Why?
And then okay, I can see why people might say, because the normal profile only uses 8-bit. It's not recording.
Why would you do that?
Stick that, well, because people don't know how to grade.
Learn how to grade.
If you stick that thing in D-Log, right, and you go and grade that footage properly, trust me when I say this, you can see the difference. Because and the key to this is, if you want to know what we bang on about, look at a picture where you've got trees, for instance, right, and you look under the trees. If it's been graded correctly, the information, the detail that you will see in the shadows versus what you will see on a Mini 3 Pro is quite substantial. So
yeah, I had those shots. I had those shots with the Mavic 3 Pro Mavic 3. Sorry, I keep saying Pro at the end. It's not the Mavic 3 from that abandoned building in the wintertime, and even with the snow in front and the building was brown and it was dark inside, Keith just went, wow, look what you can see in there, Chuck. It's like, because you can see through the openings in the building, and there was detail there that would have been lost with pretty much any other camera, and it was there. And it was there after I graded it, and it's just like insane. And
I mean,
I'm not the best grader either. I mean, I'm learning as I go, but I grade everything.
The Mavic 3 has had a troublesome launch, should we say?
You think?
We have been very critical of it.
I've been very vocal about it. I know a lot of people got irritated by me being so vocal, but I didn't want to hold back. They didn't give it to me. I paid.
The thing is, right, we were very critical of it because of the money that you pay for it, and I still think that the GPS problem, whilst is better,
it's not right, but it's better.
Still people complaining about it, and then you get the Mini 3 that comes out, and that thing connects in sub 30 seconds pretty much everywhere. DJI, you've still got issues now. Don't get me wrong, they fixed it where that drone now is acceptable to fly.
It's the 2-minute mark. Yeah, 2 minutes is acceptable, because if you're going to put a $3,000 drone in the air, chances are you want to spend a bit more time making sure everything's in order with your checks before you toss it into the air.
But if you've got the money, then yeah, the Mavic 3, hands down, is the best drone. But you have to have some skill. The normal profile on it, whilst good, it is
no
cut
point
down.
If you're going to drop the cash and you're going to get the 4/3 sensor, and you want to extract all that camera has to offer, you have to grade. If you film in normal, if you have a Mavic 2 Pro, good. It's more than good enough. You're fine.
I
mean,
I can't justify the cost of a Mavic 3 at the moment, and I'm getting pretty good with my Air2S now. And D-Log is not the easiest thing to grade, and it takes some time and learning. And I thought I knew about color grading.
There's the download. You can download the lot, which is helpful. I took your advice, Keith, and I did that. I downloaded the DJI lot for the Mavic 3. And it certainly gets you. You can bring it in the cube file. They're called .cube files. You bring them into whatever editor you're using. The big three, anyways, like DaVinci, Premiere Pro, and Final Cut. You can bring it into that, and then wherever it needs to go, those three programs are a little different. And then I graded it because it made it so much easier. It got me to a point where I had good starting points where it got me. Before it was like, how do I get there? I'm just so washed out.
So. If you're what Chuck's talking about, all DJI provide, if I think they do this for any of their drones that shoot in D-Log, they or log format, they provide you a
lookup table,
which basically puts you into what's called the Rec 709 coloring thing, which is pretty much what most Hollywood productions, TV productions, certainly in the US and most of the world, use. So it gives you a better platform than if you were going to grade it from scratch. So if you are getting into grading and you have an Air2S, you have a Mavic 3, have a look on the downloads page on the DJI website. The lot is there, and believe me, it will give you a much better ability to grade that footage. I mean, in my recent video, Chuck commented on the sky. That's because I was using that. I started off with that LUT, and I was then able to put a filter on the sky, and that sky just went boom.
And I'm thinking, me going forward, that there's always been complaints about, even with the Mavic 2 Pro, washing out your sky and such, and acting like it was overexposed. And maybe this is part of the ticket to getting that.
I mean, admittedly, I was using a plugin called Color Finale for the if you're a Final Cut editor, it gives you the same coloring controls as if you're in DaVinci. The only thing I'll say about it is it crashed a ton of times on my machine, and this is an M1 Max, so they haven't really got an excuse. It's not like it's an old Mac.
Well, you have quite a bit of horsepower there, dude.
A tiny bit, but it does give you a much better ability to grade. I mean, I'm seriously thinking of switching to DaVinci just for the color grading ability. But yes, anyway, we've talked about the Mini 3 quite a bit.
DaVinci. Yeah, we should move on.
But if as Chuck said, just to clarify, if you're thinking and you only have a limited amount, the Mini 3 is a damn good starting drone. The only down thing that I will say about it, the only thing is that even though DJI claim this, I would argue I wouldn't feel safe is that if there's reasonable wind, I don't think it's going to act nearly as well as a heavier drone. That's its only down.
That's the only downfall of it, and that's the problem I had. That's the only problem I have with this. It's its predecessor.
If you're traveling,
it's great. It's freaking great. It packs. They pack so darn small. It's not even a burden to carry the thing around.
Now, Henry very kindly put together a little news segment for us, which is going to be talking about a few little things from mainly DJI. So without further ado, we will introduce Henry Robotic from the Henry Robotic channel, and if you've never subscribed, go and subscribe now. Yes, bring Mr. Producer Man, who's hiding in behind us. Can be magic.
The man behind the curtain.
The man behind the curtain. Can you please bring up Henry Robotics news segment? Welcome
to the 2K Drones news by Henry Robotic. So in this video, I'm going to be going over some leaks with the DJI Inspire 3 and DJI Avata drone. So first, starting off with the DJI Avata drone, it is basically a DJI FPV drone that's mini and meant for indoor use. It has ducted propellers that aim downwards with motors on top and a one-axis gimbal. It also apparently comes with DJI goggles that look different from the older DJI FPV goggles. They're a little more stretched according to the images and leaks that we've seen before. It apparently does not actually have a manual mode, which is pretty interesting for a DJI FPV drone. I'm not exactly sure what modes it will have and how much control you will have over the drone, but it's pretty interesting to see that. Now, looking at the images, we can tell it's a pretty small drone. Now, it is going to be around 500 grams, so it's still going to be above 250 grams, which means you can't fly under those FAA regulations. My hope is that it's a relatively cheap and affordable drone, something kind of like the Mini. I think this would allow me and other people to actually get into FPV, and it might be a good starter FPV drone. Not to mention for the people who want to get indoor shots or into tight spaces, this is a really great drone. Now, there are some CG videos of the drone and images, and they obviously are not going to be perfect, but even Hakasushi, who is a very trusted leaker, says that some of the videos look at least pretty close to the final product, which I trust. Now, moving on to the Inspire 3. We have a lot of videos and pictures of the DJI Inspire 3. Most of them are of this one particular DJI Inspire 3 that has crashed, and we do actually have a couple videos of it, one of which is actually of it flying, which is pretty interesting. We can tell it has a similar design to previous Inspires with the folding up arms and propeller and gimbal and camera on the bottom that can swivel 360 and not have any of the props in the video. We can see the new FPV camera on it, which is the camera that's basically stuck to the body. It's a one-axis gimbal, and basically that allows whoever's flying the drone a better idea of which way the drone is facing. We can tell it has a much bigger and probably higher quality camera than compared to the previous Inspires. Speaking of the cameras, we can actually see what the image sensor of the bottom cinema camera looks like, and it looks like the images on screen. What to me is interesting is that this, I was surprised we even saw any images of an Inspire 3. I'm surprised DJI is making an Inspire 3 with how expensive they have made the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. I just don't see why you would buy an Inspire that's way bigger and requires you to buy a separate camera. Maybe for interchangeable lenses and a cinema camera, but I don't really think you're going to notice that much of a quality difference. Not to mention, I don't know how DJI is going to sell the Mavic 3 Pro when the Inspire is probably around the same price. I mean, the Mavic 2 Pro is so expensive. Unless they make this Inspire prohibitively expensive, then there's no way it's just going to compete with the Mavic 3. And if there's any reason to buy the Inspire, people will just buy the Inspire instead of the Mavic, or the other way around. If the Inspire doesn't have better footage than the Mavic, everyone's just going to buy the Mavic. So it doesn't really make sense to me. It's kind of a conflicting place on DJI's kind of tier list of consumers, beginners, prosumers. It's just interesting to see this kind of caliber of drone coming out. When the Mavic 3 came out, I never expected to see another Inspire, and yet here we are. All right, everyone, thank you for watching my segment, and now back to Keith and Chuck.
Thanks, Henry.
Bravo,
Thanks,
Henry. Thank you.
Bravo.
So I put we put the link up to his channel, which if you're not subscribed to Henry, he's been taking a bit of a hiatus too, but he's back and he's very, very good at tracking down this stuff. And we're very lucky to have him here. And his channel does more of this, So if you're interested in what's kind of upcoming and new, Henry's a really good source of seeing stuff that's on the horizon, and he uses good credible sources.
He's a good chap,
He's
and
a
your
very
production
good
level on that
detective.
video was really good, Henry.
He
So,
put that
yeah.
together very, very
Yes.
fast. I asked him to
Yes.
do that very late last night, and it was like,
So thank you,
bravo.
thanks, buddy.
and
I
some
will
comments.
say one thing.
Go ahead, because I see what
I
you're
will
thinking. What I
say
was
one
thinking.
thing. One thing to Henry on your video. I think I know why DJI are making the Inspire 3. Now, there is long rumored that DJI are making. Well, we know they've made a cinematic camera in the Osmo Pro, whatever it's called. Sony have made a drone called the
AirPeak.
which carries their Sony A7 cameras mainly. DJI are rumored to be making an answer to the A7S4 or 4S
Because they have that cute little company Hasselblad.
This Inspire, I bet you they will release a gimbal on that will carry that camera, because that drone will be capable of lifting it. I think this is DJI's answer to Sony's AirPeak. That's
what I think. I think it's going to be totally enterprise, and it's not meant to compete with a foldable that's meant for travel in tight spots like the Mavic 3 is. This thing is big, bulky, brawny, beefy, and meant to go for full-on production work where you have the room to carry it and everything.
And they're definitely trying to get their finger in that with that cinematic gimbal camera. Ronin 4D.
They want to squish Sony. They want to squish Sony before Sony gets too much of a stronghold in the market.
So that's why they are working on that. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was obviously Project Avatar or Avatar drone.
See you, Robert.
So I've made no secret that I love the DJI FPV drone. I had a very unfortunate accident a few months ago where it kind of went into the river. And I have looked at that footage left, right, and fucking center to see what I did wrong, and I still can't see it. So all I can tell is the drone suddenly flipped, and it was in normal mode. It wasn't even in sports mode. It was in normal mode, and it just flipped.
Yeah, he lost
and
the motor.
Went into the river.
He had a motor go bye-bye.
And I was going to replace it, just the drone. Then I started hearing rumors of this. Now, the one rumor that I've heard that Henry didn't mention in his news thing is that it is the same camera that's on the Mini 3 Pro. Which, if we are going to criticize the DJI FPV beyond the obvious things of its, the fact that it's not exactly a strong drone, and I hear every criticism. I love the drone because it's fun to fly and I can fly it. I understand why people have problems with it. I liked it. But if there is one criticism about the drone that I always had, was the quality of the camera. It's why I mounted the Action 2 on it. Oh, yeah, the Action 2 went into the river as well. We did get it back. There's a story there. But
it's proof in your last video, Keith, that it survived.
But I am excited about this, but Henry showed the new goggles there, which the image is stretched. They're not. The image is stretched, but interestingly, it only has two aerials on the top, not the four-way antennas. That tells me that those goggles are purely for this drone, whereas the goggles that came with the FPV drone can work with the air units that DJI were making and the Casa Vista units that they are still in production with. So my first thing is, I hope to God that DJI allow this to work with the current.
They better.
Goggles.
The
remote is the same, which it should be.
If it is, and this is the kicker for me too, Keith. If this new drone is backward compatible to my existing DJI FPV stuff, the remote control and the goggles, then I'll grab one, because it and a couple of batteries, it'll be so much easier to pack than the FPV drone. And it's actually it's perfect for us, as we're kind of their key market. We're camera drone guys. We don't want to be bothered with manual mode because we just don't. And at least I don't. And then, so this thing is just compact, better camera. If it works with my existing stuff, it can go in my camera bag along with a Mini 3 Pro, and I can carry those two drones anywhere.
In effect,
get cool shots.
Whoop. They're going for the ability that you can fly inside safely. There, as Henry mentioned in the video, and the thing is, it doesn't have a manual mode. If it doesn't have a manual mode, it has to have the ability to tilt more than the current FPV does in normal and sports mode. It might not have a manual mode. I suspect it's going to have some kind of hybrid mode because it is a cine whip, right? And a cine whip has to have the ability to dive, right? And if they're going to somehow work out how to make that thing dive,
but then
and
save
have
itself,
and have the ability to control it more like a camera drone, which you can do, or if they're going to give it sort of video game style controls where you can dive the damn thing, then I think they're going to sell a shit ton of them, because
if
I
they can
think
make
it's
them.
going to give camera guys, drone guys, the ability to capture something that we thought the DJI FPV drone would do. And I think a lot of people were put off by the fact that it was a large drone, and it was very brittle, whereas this thing looks far stronger with the ducts, safer,
Pentaprops.
and 5 props, which means it's probably going to be uniquely sounded. If this thing is real, which I think it
and
is,
maybe fast.
it needs to be fast. It needs to be reasonably powerful, and it needs to have the ability. You don't need full manual mode, and I get why they're doing that, but it does need to have the ability to dive a bit more, because you need that ability to make it an interesting drone. If that thing truly does have the sensor that the Mini 3 Pro is there, and it works with my goggles, I will be queuing outside the shop. I will.
What if they gave you a D-log?
will.
Can you imagine if they gave you a D-log? They won't, but imagine if they did.
I mean, you don't even, well, with an FPV drone.
What? Is the problem with coloring FPV footage?
No, it's more to do with the refresh rates and stuff. But well, again, if the thing that they've never done with the FPV drone, which they've done with the Air 2S, is allow you to overlay a LUT in the goggles, because if it's in D-log, right, you can't fly an FPV
anything.
drone.
No, you can't see the problem that I had when I was flying over a stream bed about a month or so ago in the Catskills was in D-log I couldn't see the twigs of death, so I just put it in normal and just flew it because I had no choice. You gotta see the obstacles. That's the whole point. And there was some stuff, to avoid.
I genuinely think that I think this will sell well if it is, one, less brittle than the original FPV drone. 2, that it works with the current set of goggles. I think
RC.
this could be a very interesting drone. If it does neither of that, I will not be buying this, and I will go out and buy a second-hand FPV drone of the original one, because I miss that drone so much, just for the fun of flying. Not so much from a creative point of view, although I've done some creative stuff with it. I miss that drone for just the fun of it.
It is fun. I don't fly mine nearly enough, but I haven't flown anything nearly enough lately. The FPV is just on the list.
I'm not investing in a new set of goggles and a new controller when I really shouldn't have to. The whole idea of FPV is that you have one controller,
you've got
one set
stuff
of
you can reuse.
that you fly with multiple drones, right? That's the whole point. If DJI forces down that route, then they're going to, in my opinion, they're screwing themselves. Yes, the fanboys are going to go out and buy it. Then you're going to see 100 of them being up for sale, which is exactly what happened with the original FPV drone, because it doesn't fly and I can't take pictures with it. It's the bloody FPV drone. The amount of times I saw people going, how do I take pictures on the DJI FPV drone? I'm just banging my head against the desk.
That's not the point. Yeah, right. But that's okay. I mean, it's just a misunderstanding.
But here's the thing. Hopefully this thing will be great, and we'll be able to fly it inside and get some really quite cool stuff with it. And as you said, the fact that it's got 5 props, that's
pentaprops.
Pentaprops. That's definitely interesting. Definitely interesting.
Pentaprops.
Yeah,
I'm interested.
But yeah, that's pretty much all we know about it, really, other than those 2 images and some sort of people that have taken those images and made some 3D models of it.
Keith, that thing could... I don't think I can fit the FPV drone in a bag with a Mavic 3 and maybe a Mini 3 Pro.
That thing can fit.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's just... It's not...
I know.
It's flat.
I know.
That's the other great thing about it. The only thing with is that FPV drone is kind of an annoying shape.
Yeah. So I really hope that thing comes out soon.
It looks like, I mean, I was looking at the FPV drone the other week, and I thought, you know what that looks like? That looks like it's that Halo purple spaceship thing that you fly around with. Had a love child with a Romulan bird of prey, next gen one, and that was the love child of those two, because that's what it bloody well looks like. That's really geeky, but if you ever played Halo, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a Trekkie, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. This thing is definitely going to be easier to pay. Yeah.
Can I just interrupt? It's a Romulan Pterodact class ship warbird and a ghost. That's how
I
geeky
was a
I am.
geek. You thought I was a geek. This guy who claims not to be a Trekkie,
He's giggling.
He's a freaking encyclopedia of Trek.
He is laughing his tail off back while he's hiding behind the curtain again.
That was our producer.
That's our Mr. Producer Gareth. Which, by the way, tomorrow, about the same time as this show, you can watch Monkey Nut Punch if you like all it is movies and geekdom and fun stuff. They were talking about you guys were talking about Jurassic Park, I think, last week.
Yeah.
And I had to turn it off because I didn't see it till last night. But anyway, it's a fun show. Check it out. If you dig it, subscribe. You probably will, because I don't know. I like to watch it. It's kind of fun.
Thank you, sir.
It's a little PG-13 as far as dialogue goes.
18. Come on.
Especially
as I suspect we're going to be talking about The Boys episode 5, and that is very, very definitely in a hard.
It's going to get saucy. It gets saucy.
Especially when the episode was called Herogasm. I'm not going into the details.
All right, stop there. So back to our show. Anyway, check it out tomorrow. It's Monkey Nut Punch, easy to find. So we're going to be back, hopefully doing regular streams again, we will definitely be covering the FPV drone. But now it is time to go on to our regular section, which hasn't been regular, but has been regular when we do these streams, where we talk about sort of creative side of stuff, because that's what Chuck and I really like to do. We like using the equipment, especially drones and everything else that we purchase, and making something out of it, as in a vlog or story. And Chuck and I are members. That's what addicted me. That's now having Lori involved with me. Yeah, we're totally into doing that. So anyway, yeah. So you need gear to do it, and Keith and I have our favorites. We're doing similar stuff, and we think we're onto something as far as what might help. We see people ask this question so much, what camera should I get and everything. So here's the thing, right? The perfect vlogging camera is like the Holy Grail. Yeah, it don't exist. Yeah. It does not exist. So there are cameras that are pretty good. There is no such thing as the perfect camera, right? Now, if got like this one, got this one, got this one, got I mean, if you're I'm carrying 5 cameras with me, and not one does everything for us. If you're into photography, there are great picture cameras, but they don't necessarily do great photos. Now, in my opinion, Sony make a pretty good APC camera. I'm using it right now. Its quality is pretty good. It does really good pictures. It does reasonable 4K video. But it's not without its issues, because again, there is no such thing as a perfect camera. It doesn't. Chuck has the updated model that has image stabilization, but there's issues with that as well. Lori has the one with IBIS, and that's the A6600, and that's issues. But most of them were operator error on my part. But you're right. There's no perfect camera. But there is a camera that both Chuck and I use predominantly, and when we were talking about this, it was like, if you had the choice of one camera, only one can go in your bag. Which camera would it be? And Chuck and I both went exactly the same thing, and that is the Pocket 2. Now, this is made by DJI. It is a handheld gimbal. Is it the best camera in the world? No. Oh hell no. Does it have its quirks? Oh yes. Indeed. But what it does is able to get you reasonably decent cinematic 4K, because you can mount your ND filters on it and everything. You can shoot in Cinelite, which gives you a nice flat profile to grade, so you are able to manipulate the pan around and move and get all kinds of cinematic shots. It's good. You can mount it, and the other great thing is it's just you talking to camera, DJI make a creator's kit, and they give you a wireless mic with it, which is actually pretty good. And you can yours plug. you have the dual handle on there right now, like I do, Keith?
No.
So I have the dual handle cam. So there's the microphone output on the side, so you can plug it into your well, maybe the other. We'll get into it later, but something like this, the wireless go-to, and then
So you can, but if you buy the creators kit with that do-it-all handle, you can get a wireless microphone, which apparently is road worked on. Apparently, if the rumors are true, and you can plug a lapel mic into it. So this is a great starting vlogging camera. If your eyesight is not that good, lining yourself up on it is not that great. With
the 1-inch screen's tough. The 1-inch screen's tough. But what I've found with my ancient eyes is that I can frame with it, and I can see if the exposure's right with it. And those are the two most important elements, because you just need to get things centered in the frame. You can't, it's the selfie stick. They have a selfie stick for it that gives you, it extends, and then you have the controls right there. Do you have that right? Nice. Yeah. Mine's not handy, but yep, I have that too. Yeah. And you can put your phone in there, and you can have the bigger screen so you can see what's going on. And you can use, when you're gripping the stick, the controls are right there, and you can move the gimbal around, start, stop.
They make a pretty handy charging case for it. The only thing is when you're traveling, and if you're using the do-it-all handle, it doesn't fit. That's the annoying thing. But this thing charges it up, so you can last a day if you're doing about 2 hours, or including your B-roll, which you're going to cut down into a vlog. Handy because the case will charge it. You just charge it up in the case at night, and the case will give
Yeah, Neil, it's it's a crappy screen. It's strictly for like making sure your exposure is kind of close, because, well, that's the other thing that you don't have to, but Keith and I are kind of sticklers for using the 180 rule, even when we do vlogs, which makes it much more difficult. There are only a few times when I just can't do it, but this little ND filter on the face there.
Now, I mean, you say that.
Use
So
180 rule.
DJI make the Action 2, obviously, now, which is a much bigger screen. This is a great all-rounder. If you're going to be doing actiony things, if you're going to be going on like roller coasters, if that's your kind of thing, if you're going to be swimming, if you're going to be diving, this is a great all-round camera. Again, it's not perfect. It overheats after about 20 minutes use in 4K, especially if you're in a hot country. The forward-facing screen is not waterproof, but again, it's actually got a built-in battery, so it'll give you a reasonable amount of charge. At first, I really didn't like this, but actually, I would say now this is probably one of the best action cameras on the market. And in many ways, this is better than the GoPro 10 because DJI now give you 4 modes of stabilization. And because this has such a wide angle view, you can get 4K 50 horizon steady imagery of this without having to buy an extra gizmo. It just does it natively out the box.
If you want to go cheap,
very well.
If you want to go cheap, Keith, you can get its predecessor.
Yes,
Osmo
but
Action.
what that doesn't do is horizon steadying stuff.
It does not do horizon steady, but Lori manages to pull it off. She just holds it steady most of the time and frames stuff up. This thing is just, you can get ND filters for it. This is a VND on it right now from Freewell. I can actually use the VND.
But
there's the front-facing camera that doesn't have the touch screen, but it's like a brick, right? I mean, I mount it on top of the truck on a magnet mount. It has its place in the universe.
I mean, DJI sells. This is quite versatile in the way you can mount it and how you put it. The normal color profile in here is pretty good. The sound quality is pretty good. If you have a wireless microphone like the one that Chuck just showed, you can plug it in via the USB cable they give with you, and it just works with this. So this is quite a versatile action camera now. And DJI have not quite a lot of money off this, so you can get some really good deals on the Action 2 at the moment.
They actually had there's a discount right now. I think it was like $100 and some odd US off right now.
And it has some uses because the fact that you can split it into 2.
It has its uses for FPV. You can't beat that thing.
Yeah, mount that on top. If you got the DJI FPV drone, mount this thing on top. It's brilliant.
Indeed.
Now, again, Blind Neil said, the small screen. The thing is, when you're traveling, and this is specifically at traveling, right? The smaller the camera, the better. Now, some of us like to use multiple cameras and stuff. I use multiple cameras, but if you notice, they're all quite small because
why?
yeah. But again, all the cameras that you use predominantly have been small. Some people want now. Look, if I had a choice, right, and I've been there. I've used the A6400 to try and vlog, but the trouble is because it doesn't have IBIS, and even with IBIS, which is image stabilization, it's not gimbal smooth. So you have to mount the damn thing on a gimbal. Now, until recently, this kind of camera would be mounted on a very heavy gimbal, and you know, when you're doing travel vlogging, you don't want to be walking around with this thing on your arm like that.
I don't have it. I don't have it in my. Mine's downstairs.
That you can get now. Sony have recently bought out a reasonably decent camera that is great for video, and funny enough, our producer has got it, and it's a pretty good vlogging camera. You can mount it on a mobile, one of these smaller mobile gimbals, and it will mount on the gimbal that Chuck's just got. And it's decent. There you go.
I wish I had it in my hands. It's so close yet so far, but it's the Crane M3.
Yeah, this is that camera that is a very good camera. It is not cheap. It's certainly a lot more money than this, but it has that nice sort of bokeh with that lens. It's got variable apertures, which this doesn't. So if you really want to get a really cinematic vlog,
we should probably go into that. I would take that to another tier, Keith. We can talk about that stuff another time, because seriously, like the M3 Crane M3, I should say, the Sony APS-C series cameras and all that stuff. You're carrying more gear. It's bigger. The stuff we're talking about today, though, like this thing that we didn't talk about yet. This is my 1X2. This is a 360 camera, and this thing's incredibly versatile. But its drawback, the drawback with this camera, is unfortunately the resolution is not as good as like the Pocket 2 or the
although
Action
it
2.
says do in 4K. I would shoot in 4K and put it into a 1080p project.
Yeah, but this thing is, I have a 9-foot selfie stick for this thing, and you can get drone-like shots with this thing, and you don't see the selfie stick, and you can plug your you get the right kit. There's a $20 in the bottom. You put it on the selfie stick. You can mount the receiver for the Wireless Go 2 microphone, so you can get that good audio too, which is something you don't usually get with an action cam. So it's really versatile. You can change. You have like 1,000 cameras in one with this thing, right? Because you have a full sphere of field of view, which is why the resolution is a little mushy. But you can pick anything and frame it, which is really super cool.
It's true, but again, there's a lot of post-production work that you have to do to get there. The great thing about the camera that Gareth just showed. Oh shit! I just knocked the mic. Sorry. The great thing about that camera that Gareth just shown, it's the higher end vlogging camera. Sony designed that for vlogging, and they sell a little sort of stick. Now that thing has IBIS. So you could walk around with it just on the stick, and the IBIS works pretty well. That is a higher end vlogging camera. But the thing is, it is heavier than something like this, or something like Chuck's just shown you, or action cameras.
How is the battery life on? See, this is the other thing as a vlogger that Lori and I struggle with as vloggers is battery life. And
I believe it does a couple of hours of video.
So you're gonna have to. You need a way to recharge your gear when you're basically in between spots.
All Sony cameras. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, you just buy other battery packs and swap them out.
Well, with some of the gear like the Pocket 2, that's one of its Achilles heels is there's no removable battery in this thing. So you have
this has got a nice removable battery on it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Gareth, because being able to swap batteries on the fly is you carry 2 or 3 batteries, you're good. You pop it out, put a new battery, and you're still rocking and rolling. This thing you have to charge on the go. And Keith pointed out there's a charging case for it. I use just a charging brick, and just when I get a chance, I just plug it in.
You look at Gareth's salty image now, right? Whilst I'm using a really decent lens, this is the in-camera lens that Gareth's got there. The background is slightly fuzzed. It's doing the bokeh. This is a damn good vlogging camera. But it is reasonably heavy. The other thing it's worth mentioning is you can charge it, like you can charge these via a USB power pack. Sony cameras, all of them chargeable by USB.
Yeah, we do that with Lori's. We do that with Lori's a lot, but we have a couple batteries for hers, and
he's got
what's-
the thing there.
Something
What's
I
the-
recommend. This is a pistol grip. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
if you're going to start vlogging, vlog on your phone. Buy a pistol grip and a little clamp for your phone, rather than buying a big old gimbal or something like that.
I like my big old.
And
gimbal.
that'll do.
That is the other
that's a
thing
cheap
that
one
we haven't mentioned, and it's funny you say that. iPhones, even the cat phone that you were swearing about before we got on air, both have reasonably decent cameras, so you could vlog on your phone. Again, you don't get that gimbal smooth imagery, but the iPhones can bloody well. So the really expensive Mavic 3 Sin that shoots in ProRes, all of the iPhones do that out the box, and there is a difference. So I'm not sort of blowing up at steam, but buy an iPhone 14 or an iPhone 13, ProRes is there. It shoots in ProRes.
Then you could put it on a very small, like the Osmo Mobile 5 or something, and I imagine Apple's smart enough that you can change your frame rate or your frames per.
But again, what Apple don't mention, and this is something that you and I take so seriously, hence why we use things like this. And trust me, if you get into this, you are going to notice it. Whilst you can shoot in ProRes on a iPhone 13 and you can shoot reasonably decent video footage on the Pixel 6 and all these other phones,
It takes a lot of space.
there's one thing: ND filters and the 180 rule.
Well, yeah, I love my motion blur.
You can get motion blur is so important if you're going into a cinematic travel vlog. So many people put cinematic travel vlogs, and you look at it, and they're using cameras like this, but it looks like a home movie. And the reason it does that is because of motion blur. And we're not going to go into so much now about ND filters. We'll cover that in another thing. But the reason people bang on about ND filters with drones, with any of these things, it's all to do with motion blur, because the human eyes are accustomed to seeing motion blur. And if you do that in front of your face right now, you're going to see the hand blurring, right? I mean, I'm doing it now, and my hand has blurred because this is shooting at 50 frames a second on a shutter, 25 frames a second on the shutter speed of 50, which is the 180 rule, which means that is set to do that motion blur. Now, if Chuck does the same thing right now,
I don't know. It's
Chuck's hands don't look as blurred as mine because
They
Chuck
do
is
not.
using a web camera which adjusts its shutter speed.
It's adjusting its shutter speed, which is what the Pocket 2 is going to do without the filters. But there are times as a vlogger when you just have no choice. You have to let things be in normal because, well, the video that's upcoming from Lori and me and one we did a few months prior, same location, just the stuff split up. We were interviewing a guy. He was taking us on a tour, and we couldn't just keep fumbling and jumbling with the ND filter because you're on here and you're trying to, you can imagine it's pretty small. You can't just keep making adjustments. You have to have the camera. Just let the camera do its thing as best it can and deal with it. But most of the time though, like if say you're filming like a shot, you're filming out the side of the vehicle's moving, or even if it's a head-on shot and you see the peripheral and it's moving, you want the motion blur. You don't want the guardrails to see every single girder and the guardrails like because that's just not normal for your eyes, and you'll see it all the time in
it is most important when you're filming B-roll. And again, if you're getting into travel vlogging, you're going to know what B-roll is, and if you don't, go and find out what B-roll is.
It's the glue that holds your story together.
Yeah, that's
Sorta.
the most important thing about any travel vlog, and that's where you take your time. It's not so important when you're doing a talking to camera piece. It isn't. I'm a tart, so I will set mine up so it does it all the time. I take great care in setting up the studio and lighting and everything, but that's because I'm a perfectionist, and I admit that. But I mean, again, we always get asked about this: what camera equipment? The thing again, we've covered this previously, but whatever one you get, whatever device you get, the thing that I would recommend is make sure it can take an external mic and get yourself a decent external mic, because
Audio.
Now, you can have the best video quality in the world. I mean, you could have ProRes 4K 50 frames a second, and it could be buttery smooth. It could look the most amazing thing in the world. You could have
But
a
if you can't,
zillion-pound ND filter on there, but if your audio is crap,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything.
exactly.
So, one of the things that you should consider when you're buying a camera for your vlogging thing, if you have a budget of say $500, right, allow $350 for your camera, and at least $150 for a decent microphone. And most of the time, wireless mics are the great way thing. The reason we love the Pocket 2 is you can get everything you need to start vlogging with a Pocket 2 and the Creator's Kit. It gives you the microphone. It gives you everything.
They even give you, with the Creator Kit, the case that it goes in right on the back here is a tripod.
And a little tripod.
There's a tripod. This thing has been used, like if you've watched any of our content, Lori's and my content, you'll see us do these brewery reviews and stuff. And I'll screw the tripod on in a matter of seconds, have it on the table with us, and just film. And it's genius.
Now, if you're a couple and you're vlogging, there are two sets of wireless microphones that are worth looking at. There are the Rode Wireless Go 2s, and then there is the DJI kit that's just come out.
DJI
The
system is pretty sweet.
Mic.
Yeah,
the DJI system is arguably better, but the Rode system is arguably better in sound. Although there's not much in it. You can get either or. They're not the cheapest thing. Again, you're gonna have to allow more like 200 and something bucks for those. No, it's about 200 and something bucks.
Well, to get the charging cases,
well, yeah,
40
okay.
50. But the microphones keeps wanting to close. It hates me.
Okay, but the DJI comes with a charging case, whereas the Rode 2 doesn't.
But remember, when you buy the wireless Go 2 setup, it's 300 something US, I think. Then you can't just get away with that. You have to. I don't think I have them here, but you have to buy lavs. I mean, you don't have to. I guess you don't have to.
So again,
but
the DJI remote.
I guess you set your budget. You can get the Rode mic that. What's the one, Keith? You have the Rode mic that works so well that it's a boom mic that just mounts right in the front of the camera.
It's the Rode Video Micro.
That one.
It works reasonably well. The trouble is, what it doesn't do, and I notice this more and more, is if you're using the selfie stick with the Pocket 2 and you're outside, because of the wide angle of the Pocket 2 and where it's mounted,
it's in the shot.
It keeps coming in the shot. So I actually use this far more in my last video. The great thing about this is if you haven't got enough for a decent lav mic, they give you a dead cat here, which will, shield it from most wind noise. You can stick it there, and although it looks a bit conspicuous, the audio quality out of this thing is surprisingly good.
Let's pretend to put it on like this.
It's not as good as having a lav mic plugged into this and just using it as a receiver.
I'm not a big fan of this thing, but that's why I want the lav.
I mean, this is slightly lighter, so you can fit it there, and it's a bit there. But if you're outside, once you put your little sort of dead cat thing on it, it becomes a bit more. It becomes a bit more conspicuous. I can't mount it at the moment because I haven't got the light. But again, the audio quality on there. If you have a finite budget, you can't really go wrong with the Pocket 2. As I said, there are some quirks to the Pocket 2. If you're talking to camera, especially with the Pocket 2, more so than the Pocket 1, don't use face track because it just goes into a tiz, especially if you're using ND filters. So just have it on fixed. It does have a small screen, so like blind Neil, if you have naffy eyesight, and I do, I have to wear glasses when I'm using it. It can be a problem sort of composing yourself.
Naffy?
Naff.
It's a British term.
Crap.
I think I translated it as probably most viewers would, but
yeah.
I don't know if we're running short on time, Keith, but you probably deep dive into all this stuff. I think the point that we've made is that if you set a budget of about $500 US, you can get yourself a really decent starter kit and go out and vlog and make videos that are much more enjoyable for your audience to watch.
I mean, both me and Chuck have been doing this a while. I've been doing this for about 3 years.
You've been doing it for longer than me.
I have used multiple cameras. I've used multiple setups. I have used, and I've been all over Thailand and into Singapore and all sorts of places over Asia. And the thing that the equipment that I'm happy with and I've kept for as long is the Pocket 2. Now the Action 2 is being used more in videos when I'm doing actiony things like swimming down rivers, and that's where this comes in handy.
Any action camera is super handy. Like
But-
this one's been stuck to the top of the truck more times than I can count. And
The
Out in the
go-to
wind and the rain and
vlogging
the snow.
camera that I use all the time when I'm out vlogging, it is the Pocket 2 because it's the most versatile. I can get really nice B-roll with it. Do I get bokeh? Do I get that sort of cinematic buttery bokeh? No, I don't.
no,
because it's a fixed
no, it's not
aperture.
great at that.
But it's possible. You know, there are people. It's funny. Like when we were traveling last year when we went to Chiang Mai, Lem bumped into a massive Thai superstar, right? Who has got like gazillions of Instagram followers and gazillions, 2 million plus YouTube followers, and she was filming a vlog. Guess what she was using? A Pocket 2. So you know what I'm saying is that as people that are starting out, as people that want, you can't go wrong with a Pocket 2. The quality is there. The quality, it does 4K 50. It does
Even the
4K.
OG Osmo Pocket, which I happen to have 2 of.
The only problem with the original Osmo Pocket was the other thing about a vlogging camera, right? And it
is the field of view is narrower.
You need a wide angle field. You know that
But
the field of view on Gareth's camera it's like freaking 15, and when it's natively out. So it's a wide angle view. This is a narrow view for thing, but the field of view on the Pocket 2 is much greater.
It is much better. It's
so you
much
don't have
better.
to hold it out as far when you're talking.
Yeah, and I don't have that long a wingspan to do that either.
Yeah.
But I still use the original Pockets. They were you can find them incredibly cheap. If you want something almost as good as the Pocket 2, the Pocket will work. And if your budget's super tight, you might find you can get one of those. Find one. And grab one.
It is one of the most versatile devices out there at the moment.
Be really
And-
artsy with it too. We haven't be able to move the gimbal. You can move you can basically pan the camera one way manually with your hand, and then you can use the dial, which is an accessory, and you can pan the head of the gimbal up and down. You can some really cool artsy stuff. It's incredibly versatile.
As vlogging cameras go, it's not, as I said, there's no holy grail, but it's up there. It's up there. And DJI tapped into something that so many people have now imitated.
They've copied it. Yeah,
and
it's
copied,
imitated.
and not quite as well. I mean, arguably there were some better versions when the original Pocket was out, but then DJI came out with the Pocket 2 and just trashed everything.
I wonder what the Pocket 3 is going to be.
The Pocket, which is coming out towards the end of this year, the Pocket 2 Creators Kit, value for money, you can't go wrong. You have everything you need to start vlogging, with the exception of ND filters, which you can get quite cheap from companies like Freewell. But you are pretty much ready to go out the box. There are loads of accessories that you can get for it. As I said, I recommend the charging case, but you can just plug a power pack into it. So if you've got like a 20,000 milliamp battery
that's all I do. I plug the brick
take
in.
it with you.
Plug it into the brick.
The great thing that the thing I love about DJI again is they with the creative kit, they do something that I've never seen any other company do. They give you a cable with 2 USB-C ends, so you can charge both the microphone and the camera together, and that's awesome. So I'm not blowing smoke, but if I'm asked what vlogging camera should I get, if you want to do cinematic travel vlogs and you don't have a huge budget and you don't want to carry lots of heavy equipment around, you can't go wrong with the Pocket 2.
There's that picture that we put up on the channel. Lori took a picture of me when I was filming at Elandon Castle. You can see me. You can see this thing out in front when I'm filming forward, because you can flip the camera around in a just one click. You can flip the camera 180 degrees. It's incredibly cool and versatile.
So,
you can go face you. You can face away from you, and all you need to do is edit out the little transition. It's like, you just pause what you're saying or whatever, and you can edit it. So it gives you a lot of really cool footage. It's
And
incredibly
it takes
powerful.
up to 256 gig cards. So
It's
again,
yeah, that's what's in this thing too, because I want to just have one card in it for like a while.
it is
Download
my
daily.
go-to camera on this channel and on
Yeah,
my
it's
channel, and always has been.
sweetness.
So yeah, I love it. It can do
We should-
everything, and it even operates to a certain extent in the rain. Because I did a vlog where we hiked down to a waterfall, and it was absolutely hammering it down that day, and I had the thing out. And it was absolutely fine. I wouldn't recommend using it outside in torrential rain all the time.
I need an
but it does
umbrella
have a
kit
certain
for
amount.
mine, Keith. I need a little like a umbrella that sits up above the top of it, so I can. Because I've been caught in
Yeah.
the rain, and I've like had my hand up over it. I'm like filming
do
like
you-
I'll be
you-
filming
you-
like
you-
this.
You take the mic, right? But the fact that you've mentioned that, during the pandemic, food delivery companies became the thing here, and this being Asia, they're all on bikes, right? Now we're in the middle of monsoon season, and we have a company, the most famous one here is Grab, right? And all these Grab drivers are riding around on their scooters with the phone mounted because they use it for GPS. They've all got little umbrellas above them.
That's
Genuinely.
funny.
They got these
That's
holders
the
with
one-
these little umbrellas that come out, and it
Yeah.
protects them from the sun when it's hot, and it keeps them the water off them when they're riding.
Well,
it's funny
there's
you said that.
There's a benefit with the like the Action 2 though. Like a
Yeah.
full on the Pocket 2 is great when the weather isn't terribly inclement.
This got a lot of stick when it came out, and DJI released a massive firmware
They had
update
issues.
for it.
They struggled
It
with
has
it.
issues, and it still does. It overheated on me. If you watch my latest vlog, so I'm plugging. We went out on a quad bikes, and I had this thing mounted on various people's heads, and it was filming for about 20 minutes solidly. It didn't stop, non-stop, 20 minutes, and it overheated just as we were getting towards the end. So 20 minutes, but that was 4K 50 in 34-degree weather. So it had a
34
lot
Celsius.
of stick, but actually, this is probably one of the most versatile action cameras currently on the market, purely from its features. If you buy a GoPro 10, it's bigger than this, it's heavier than this, and if you want to get 4K level horizon, you have to buy that extra wide angle lens thing for it, or it doesn't do it. This thing has natively massive field of view. This is quite good for vlogging because you can stick it, it's magnetic, so you can use it and mount it in various places, which is really good. You can stick it like that, line yourself up. It's got a nice big 1-inch screen and a massive field of view. Great for vlogging. So if you don't want a Pocket 2 and you think you're going to be doing more action-y stuff, this is it. There you go.
I have nothing else to say. You took all the words.
Sorry.
We're good.
I
No,
apologize.
no, it's fine. It's a shameless plug of all that is DJI today. But
Yeah, I know.
that's
I know. Yeah.
we should probably wrap up, Keith.
We are
because
going to wrap up. I was going to say, right.
Speaking of vlogging,
I'm both. If you haven't seen our channels, both of us have got recent vlogs. So there's Chuck's channel. Go and check out his latest vlog. Your latest vlog was
this is
the last
Boston.
one
It's Boston.
Boston. Yeah.
Still, I got deterred a little bit. I'm working on our edit when Lori and I were. There's one more Scotland video to toss out there. That's pretty fun. Yeah, that's a weekend in Boston, and we did some really fun stuff. I hope that the video gives you some ideas if you get a chance to go to Beantown. It's pretty cool, and there's a lot of stuff you can do in just a short period of time in a weekend. It's pretty fun. So we tried to share some of those things that you can do.
Yeah. And the bravest man in the world eating a massive chocolate cake with a white hoodie on it. braver bloody man than I am.
And red wine.
And red wine.
Yeah.
I recently
so-
did one in an area of Thailand that most people will never have heard about. That was pretty cool. We stayed in a tent in the jungle, and we did quite a lot of actiony things on this one. Don't use head tracking because look at the way it's moving around.
Is that the okay? So I didn't use
Yeah.
head tracking, but that was the start of our video. Was that was all Pocket 2 stuff for the most part, and the start of our video too.
That's all Pocket 2. And we're staying in a tent. Swimming monkeys, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So check that out because it needs some love. And then, as we've already mentioned, but I will plug this again. Monkey Nut Punch podcast tomorrow, which will be 3:30 in the UK time, so at the same time as this on the Monkey Nut.
10:30 Eastern,
Yeah.
7:30 Pacific.
I
Is that
was going
right?
to be honest with you. I was expecting you to bring up Henry next, so I
Well,
got Henry up.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, where we go? I'm leaving Henry till last because I was gonna give him the biggest love. So, Henry
Biggest love.
Robotic.
Okay.
Henry Robotic, who is our newsman, who very kindly put that video together in a matter of seconds, and who is growing the most impressive beard.
Yeah.
Go and check his channel out because he's got all the latest leaks. So it's well worth checking out. He's currently, unfortunately, busy at the moment swimming, I believe.
I think
and
he is.
he does everything. Henry, he's a musician, he's an athlete, and he makes really good videos. It's not fair. So and
Yeah, he's
young.
He's a good dude. We're lucky to have him on here when we do.
We
He
are.
begged us to change this anyway. Yeah, and Monkey Nut Punch.
There we go. Come check out Monkey Nut Punch podcast live tomorrow if you're into all things Trek. The boys.
And now you could have finished up, Keith, and said, and now for something completely different. There's Monkey Nut Punch.
and videos that and the most amazing vlogs in the world. If you're British,
I actually I get a kick out of Garrett's vlogs. They kill me.
if you're British,
It's very British
very
humor.
Dry sense of humor. Yes.
Yeah, it's super British. I love it. Fun
anyway,
stuff.
guys, sorry I had a mouthful of water. We have banged on long enough. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please go and do so. We will be back hopefully in a couple of weeks' time with another one of these, and hopefully we'll have some more news on the DJI FPV drone. There's going to be a few more DJI products coming.
Maybe I'll have my Mini 3 Pro by then. We can talk about
Exactly.
my actual first-person experience with it instead of just reading about others.
I hope you guys enjoyed the show. As I said, if you did, please leave a like, and thanks to everybody in the chat. Thank you very much to my pal Gareth for producing this. Without you, it would be shit. So thank you.
Yeah,
because I am not very good at multitasking.
No guy is.
Thank you very much, G, for that, and we'll see you in the next one. But for now, it's a bye-bye from me.
And peace out from me. Catch you in the next one. Later, people.